Hi friends, I'm going to teach you how to make a cozy knit blanket today in a few easy steps. This tutorial will teach you how to make those trendy cozy blankets, and once you start, you should have a blanket in about 2 hours or so. What you'll need for this blanket is you'll need at least 4 skeins of this chunky knit blanket yarn. You can pick it up at any local craft store. I got these at Michael's, but you can pick them up at Joann's as well. Kind of look like this. You'll need 4 of them. At least you can go as many as 6 I've done. Honestly, you can make it as big as you want it to, really. To start, so let's say this first. This is kind of like chalk paint. You cannot screw this up. So, if you make a mistake, it can be undone. Let's put it that way. It's super easy, and I know you're gonna make a fabulous blanket out of this. So, to start, you are going to need to start by making a knot. So you're gonna twist the yarn, make a loop like that, and then you're going to pull through the long yarn, and you're going to make something like this. Pull it tight, so it looks like this. You've got 2 yarns coming out the bottom, okay? Once you have that, you wanna make it about a 2-inch, the size of your finger even, long. I say about 2-inch. You can make it as big as you want, but the bigger you make them, the holier or loose the blanket's gonna be. The smaller you make the loops throughout this whole blanket, the tighter the blanket will be, okay? And note that once you finish the blanket and kind of use it a little bit more, it's gonna stretch out a little bit anyway, so I suggest about a 2-inch loop. And being consistent throughout all of this definitely helps. So, once you have the loop, you are going to just start with the long side, the one that's attached to the skein. You are going to pull it through, and you're gonna make additional loops. And you're gonna keep going like this. Now, it's gonna create kind of a braid. You are going to want to do about 20 loops. For a normal throw blanket, I'd say you can go anywhere from 15 to 25 loops across. For this one, I'm going to do about 20, 22. And if you're chatting or watching a movie, you don't necessarily have to count as you're going. I kind of, go and then I'll go back and count. It should be about, the width of this table almost. Okay, now you're at the end. You've done 22 loops across, and now we're gonna turn and start making the blanket. So what you're gonna do in this last loop, you're going to pull through and make another loop, and actually at every end, you're going to make 2 loops, because that's gonna start your next row, so the 3rd row that you'd be working on. So you're gonna make 2 loops, because that starts it for the next time you come around. But then how you move on to the next one. So I always move to my skein from my right to my left, just because I'm working this way, but whatever you're more comfortable with. So when you look at this, there's kind of a little like knot here in the middle where that's kind of formed from when you flipped over. I like starting with those. You don't have to. You can just do them on the normal loop, but I like doing it on these little knots right here in the middle because it makes the end a little tighter. So I'm gonna pull that loop right through it. Again, keeping this first loop over there. So you're gonna kind of like find that little hump and you're gonna go through, okay? And you're gonna work your way down the blanket. Sometimes they're not always, but you can kind of find them in here. You should have however many rows you had, that's how many loops you should have at the end of this whole row. You're gonna work your way down. So I'm gonna have 22 of these loops. It's good to check on them every once in a while to make sure that you're keeping to the same amount. And you're gonna wanna make sure, again, keep these kind of consistent, the same size, because it helps keep the whole blanket, looking like it's the same size and consistent across the board. You wanna make sure like in between these loops, there's not a ton of yarn because that's gonna make it super loose. So I try to keep them, and I'll show you on the next row because it'll be easier to explain, but you wanna try to keep them a little bit tighter together. So finding these little humps, pulling them through, it's like, kind of like a little knot in there. It's just a little bit tighter than just doing it on these outside loops, which you can do it, but I find that I like to at least start the blanket through those middle little tighter loops. And you can kind of just work your way, you know, pull the fabric if these start to get a little tighter on you, and keep them kind of consistent as you go down the row. Okay, so we're going to keep going all the way to the end. And remember, when you get to the next end, you're going to do 2 loops just like I did when I started. And you're going to just keep doing this through the whole blanket. But I'm going to show you, once we get through this first row, I'll show you how to go through the second row, and then that's all you have to do. Okay, so now you've made it to the end, okay? That was literally the hardest part of this whole blanket. I moved my skein over to the right side, and I, let some yarn loose just because it makes it a little easier, not so taut when you're trying to do this. But you're going to, now you're at the end, you're gonna make another loop. You're gonna make the first row. So this is really gonna be your third row, this loop that you're first creating. Which is what I was talking about, making 2 loops as you go along. And then you're going to just go through the first loop. You're going to pull them through. Try to keep the loops pretty consistent in size. Make sure that you keep them pretty close together. You don't want a ton of yarn in between these loops, because then it makes it for, holier or kind of stretched out look to the blanket, if that's what you're going for. Have at it. You can make it as loose as you want, but I like mine a little tighter because, like I said, they stretch out a little bit once you start using them. So you're just going to go like this down the line, and this is literally how you're going to make the entire blanket. Now when you run out of one of your skeins, you're literally just going to shoelace tie these together. I like to double knot them. I promise you will not see them, and they will totally blend into the blanket. So I'm gonna, double knot it, and then I'm just gonna cut the ends, and you're gonna keep going. If you are switching colors, if you're kind of doing like a color block and doing one skein and then another color skein, do it at the end of a row, and it'll blend in seamlessly. So then once you start going, so I did that, and then I'm just gonna keep going. Simple as that. Coming to the end. On the other end is the last bit of your yarn. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna start on the end with the loops. And you're gonna take your first loop and you're going to pull the second loop through it. So you're gonna kind of like, this is the corner of your blanket. It's gonna create a nice braid look. And you're just gonna keep going down the line. You're gonna pull them through. How simple is this? And keep going, keep pulling, kind of keep stretching them out. All the way down the line until you get to the end. Okay, so now you're coming to the last couple ones. You're gonna just keep threading them through. And I'm on the last one. So I'm just going to literally tie like a shoelace knot through here. And tie it off. And you can either cut it or you can kind of thread this through here. Might cut it a little bit so it's not so long, and I'm going to thread the rest through here. So it kind of adds to the braid. Easy enough. You braid it through. And you now have a beautiful, chunky, cozy knit blanket. I hope you enjoyed this tutorial, and I hope it helped, and I hope you make lots of blankets in the future. Thanks for watching.